Chris, you mentioned before that MediaWiki are one of the biggest users of CiviCRM. Does that mean, and I know this is a little bit off topic from CRM, but knowledge management and tying that in with users is something...
The Wikimedia Foundation doesn't use it to run Wikipedia. They just use it for their donor management. It's a separate system. So, but, you know, we've all mentioned integration with CMSs, and most CRMs do that, and if they don't, then I wouldn't bother, frankly. But so there is knowledge management in most of them, but they particularly don't use it for Wikipedia.
Okay, because we do actually use a Wikimedia product.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of wondering. You know,
it's a separate system.
Yeah. Is there something that does tie in with wiki products within CiviCRM?
Well, I mean,
should I ask you later?
Drupal all have wiki editions, so yes, but and then the level of integration would just be a user record. You know, you can see that user edited those wiki pages and also contributed X, Y, and Z here. So there's that, but it would be, the wiki would be on the content management side, and then everything else would be on the CRM side. So, yeah, it's and Moodle I think has little bits of. Well, yours was a custom kind of job, but yeah, but yes, but it'd be on the CMS side.
I reckon this day and age, questions like that, you can just go out to social media and ask that, and find out what's the best, or what are the top 5, and get those responses really quickly. I think it's a great time to be trying to find out answers to things like that. It's awesome.
We actually presently use a CRM. In fact, it's Act Sage database. One of our problems is that, from a cost perspective, interfacing with something like Microsoft Outlook, and hence I wax and wane from time to time as to whether or not I ought to be getting something that's more user-friendly in terms of that interface. Am I being perhaps paranoid in terms of even wanting the two to interface? That's probably my dilemma at times.
No, I don't think that you're... I don't think it's wrong to want those two things to interface at all. I mean, what you really want to be able to do is to have a seamless connection between your organisation and the people you want to communicate with. And you want to find as many ways that you can remove any blockages than you as you possibly can. What you integrate with is up to you. If you decide that you want to be able to work from your CRM through Outlook, for instance, then that's a choice you can make.
I suppose the free tip I'm looking for at the present moment is, given that products like Act by Sage are very costly for organisations such as ours, is there one which you find, or some sort of feature that you find which works better interfacing with the likes of Microsoft Outlook that is worth thinking about?
I'm afraid I'm completely the wrong person, because I've always been a Mac, open source, Linux type person. I don't use Microsoft stuff very much, but I mean, the only thing I would throw into the mix is that when I have seen people who use the CRMs for email, and they do integrate, but then staff still switch back to using Outlook. So you either have to go all one way, make sure it's seamless, or don't bother, because sometimes the behavioural change is actually the hardest bit, and that's nothing to do with the technology. So,
I suppose it's worth mentioning that Microsoft does have its own CRM solution, Dynamic CRM. Yeah.
I'd like to know your thoughts on where you think database or CRM management best sits in an organisation in terms of governance and data stewardship and things like that.
I mean, we're just a small organisation, but I really think it has to be everybody's responsibility. I think that I think that there needs to be a culture of, responsibility, and that if somebody sees something wrong, then they fix it, kind of thing, or to try to share it around, because otherwise it just becomes this massive job for one person or one department, or somebody's always trying to put it off on somebody else. But,
fairly similar. Green Renters has twice the staff you have of 2 people. But I did work with a larger, older not-for-profit a few years ago, and we had a data team and a web team, and there was constant friction between the two, and neither could ever understand why it took so long for the other to do something, and et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes changing your technology can require changing your internal structures as well, and making some teams that used to be separate together, or combining roles. And it doesn't have to mean job losses. That's make people understand that. It can just mean when something becomes integrated, maybe teams need to be integrated as well.
I'd have to say too, I think when you start using a system that consolidates all of that, some of those problems go away. You still may have a database manager that's responsible for the overall architecture around the database. But once you get down to the level of auditability and security that's available in these new systems, it takes away the problems of, well, who did what? Why did that person go and do that? Because you can actually create situations where that web team don't have access to certain information for very good reasons, and that the database guys don't get a chance to get in and muck around with your email templates, for instance, which is something you don't want to have. So I think that it takes away some of the pain that's existed previously, but everyone's able to still operate on the same single unified product, if that makes sense. So, don't know if we quite answered your question there, though.
Well, it's always good to hear all the opinions, but
Yeah.
like I've asked many people this question, and I always get varying responses from it's everybody's responsibility, which I understand that's very much about the culture. And then other people saying, well, it's mainly IT, or we had it in IT for a while, and now we have it in marketing, and now we have a special data team in operations. And I suppose I was just interested to hear from anybody's experiences what has worked best.
Yeah, I'd probably just say also it depends very much on the organisation, and so the beauty is that now you're not limited to what the vendor tells you. In fact, the responsibility is now much more with the vendor to be able to make it do what you need it to do, not thou shalt use this and only the database manager shall have control over that now. It's we're in an environment now where those products can actually be tweaked to do what you need them to do, not what the vendor is telling you have to do with them.